Good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this December 8th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon, also on Roku. How are you, man?
What is today? Thursday? It's first Friday.
It's first Friday.
First Friday.
Yeah. All right.
We're almost there. But it
almost,
doesn't matter. Like we
almost to where? Yeah.
It's
the
like, weekend does just more stuff.
Yeah.
The weekend, I'm actually probably busier.
Yeah.
Especially this weekend, just a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. That parade on, what was that, Saturday night? That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like there was as many people as last year.
I couldn't tell you. I was like so involved on the Mac Square end that I didn't even know. I guess you were there because we were setting up stuff beforehand. And I never quite give myself enough time to get set up. I mean, had we had another half an hour, it would have been probably right. But
it was cold out.
It was cold though. Yeah, that's the thing that always like.
Or what's his name? His hands were.
Blake.
Yeah. It was cold.
Well,
it wasn't as cold as it was in Gresham for that football game. Though, I promise you that was bone chilling cold.
Well, and I had stopped by Mac Square the night before that same time just to make sure all the lights were working and everything, and it was a lot colder. So yeah, and so on Saturday night it was like.
Remember New Year's last year, how cold it was? That poor basketball team broke down, them kids. And they were standing around that they had to stay the night in LeGrand. Yeah, a high school basketball team broke. They didn't break down, the roads got closed, I think.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. We do, yeah. We get volunteered into the cold things. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, it's that time of year.
We don't get volunteered, we get voluntold.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of how it is with me and the staff. It's like, yeah. So if I volunteer for something,
it means we all.
It means you all. Yeah, my dear Tanya, she's the one that like is the worst of that because it's like, hey, I volunteered for this and I need your help.
But she loves that.
She's incredibly supportive.
That went by pretty fast.
It did.
And I made a smart remark on my Instagram about it.
Oh, did you?
Well, I posted a picture of, here, let me pull it up real fast. I don't think people will be able to see it, but I posted a picture of the Santa Claus, and I wrote on there, would have loved to have been at EOU Hoops to watch my guys Preston Chandler and Philip Malatar go off in an overtime thriller versus Southern. But sometimes Santa and Mrs. Claus take precedence. But when I came back to go to the bathroom, it was in overtime, so I popped it on the computer in there for a second because we ended up winning. It was a heck of a game too. It was awesome. Yeah.
Well, good. What do you want to do? Sports?
Let's do it. Sports this week. EOU volleyball, they bowed out of the national tournament in the semifinals. What a great run for these young ladies. I sent Khaki, the head coach, and we text back and forth during the season, and I sent her a text. I waited a couple of days, but I was just like, this run that you guys went on reignited a flame in this community for EOU sports that kind of died during COVID.
Right.
It was super important, to have this, people get behind a team again, and especially up at EOU with football having a rough year and then coming off of COVID. It was like it needed to happen. And even though we didn't win a national championship, it really did reignite that flame in this community. EOU women's basketball and men's basketball won both of their games this weekend. So they start off the CCC 2-0. The men's basketball team went over to Boise State on Tuesday night. They lost big. I mean, Boise State's a D1 school, but that's a money thing. That's like, hey, we'll pay you to come over here and play us an exhibition game. It doesn't count on your record. And, of course, we're going to take that.
Right.
We play Gonzaga on the 28th. And now This Gonzaga team is really good, but it's not as good as the team from last year. I mean, last year when we played them, they were number 1 in the country.
Right.
So that ought to be fun. EOU, both men's and women's basketball are at home on Friday. It's a makeup game. They moved it. Usually we play the travel partner on Tuesdays, which is C of I. They moved this game to a Friday night game. So the women will play at 5:30, men will play at 7:30 right here. Conference rival, C of I, the team that if you're an EOU fan, you hate them. That's just part of it. And we have a really hard time with them. So get out there and support basketball. Milenburg's this weekend. Big. There's also a women's, girls wrestling tournament as well going on at the same time at the middle school, I believe. So I think it's called the Safeway Buckle tournament, and they're running it at the same time as the Milenburg, I believe. But Milenburg this weekend, we should see, I don't know, we're going to walk out of there with 3 or 4 champions from LeGrand. Which is awesome. And LeGrand's ranked number 1 in the state in wrestling to start the season, and which they should be. Basketball 6th. Girls basketball is not ranked yet, but I'll tell you what, and I hate to say this, and I got it. There's this mid-major media, right? This dude over on the other side, you know who he is. He's the one that they always talk about for East West Shrine. The lady who does the program's son.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about, right? I can't ever remember his name, but he does mid-major media. And because of OSAA's lack of ability to do polls, which we've all seen, he started making his own polls. So I comment on him all the time now. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, like he had Baker at like number 4 to start this. I'm like, Baker, you got Baker ranked way too low. They're better than that. Baker might be the best team in the state. And he said, no. Well, Baker went over to Central Oregon, beat Bend, who was number 4 in the state at 5A, came within 2 points of beating Wilsonville, who was the returning state champion and number 1 in the state at 5A, and he released his next pony at Baker at number 2. So I mean, Baker's going to give us, even though we beat them 2 out of 3 last year, they're going to give us a run this year. Right, they're really good. Wow. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, good deal. Let's take a look outside.
Check in on the old weather.
Yeah, it's winter out there, man.
It's cold.
Yep.
When I walked in today, she said, "You look cold." I said, "I hate the winter."
I know. When I came in the back door and I could see you had pants on, it's like
I had pants, a sweatshirt, and a jacket.
It's like,
and a
hoodie. It really is winter.
Yeah, it's cold.
Let's see what Gabe has.
Heading into the day on Thursday, much of us will be topping out into the low to mid 30s, with that exception for that cold spot holding into the 20s in Baker. Any one of us at least has a slight chance to see a few flurries during the day, but that accumulating snow will hold off until we progress through the evening. And through about midnight, we could see total snowfall accumulations anywhere between a dusting to 2 inches across all of our valleys, even down to the lowest elevations. If you want to see more than that, you really would have to get up above 3,500 feet into potentially places like Meacham, especially into Togay, with upwards of 8 inches into the highest elevations, including Anthony Lakes. But these snow totals could double going into Friday morning. Heading into the day on Thursday for LeGrand, it looks like this will start out into the mid to the upper 20s at the 8 o'clock hour. More gloom than not. That will continue throughout the day. We'll start with gusty southeasterly winds, although that's not even the extent of it. During the day, we'll see a full transition to the south, helping to gust those winds up to 50 miles per hour in spots, as a few flurries will be around as those highs only reach the lower 30s. Our best chance to start to see more sticking snow would be into the evening hours. That could become steady overnight. That would be our best chance for another inch or 2 on top of that. As that snow gets out of here by mid-morning on Friday, we go dry during the day with increasing sunshine, with those highs into the mid-30s with much calmer winds.
All right. There we go. So glad you're here with us this morning. Union County Commissioner Paul Anderes is going to be joining us in just a minute. All right, we're back with Union County Commissioner Paul Anderes. How are you, man?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to have you with us today. I think has it been a little while
It
since
has.
you've been
Yep.
here? Yeah.
Yep.
So,
But always appreciate being able to come on and visit.
well, good. Well, what's up? How are things going?
Going well. It's I kept thinking that after the campaign, I was going to be less busy, and it just seems as I'm busier and busier all the time, but in a good way. And I think that I'm fairly productive in that being busy. So
Yeah.
it's good.
You sent the other day. I and I don't know if that's something new that you started or you just sent it to me recently, but it was kind of a diary of the month of November.
Right. And that is actually the first, and I probably, in retrospect, the only campaign promise I'm ever going to make. During the campaign, people said, well, we don't know what you do. We don't know what you do. So I said, okay, I will do a newsletter. And each month I add more and more names to it.
Mhm.
And it's been very positive. I've got a lot of good feedback from it. It does take me a long time to compile all that and make sure that everything's accurate and without spelling mistakes and grammar and punctuation. So
No, it was enormous
yeah,
because you had on this day, I mean, for the entire month,
right.
and was more of a diary than it was diary, but
Yeah,
but it was like, these are the meetings that you did and this is what you did. And I mean, it was crazy.
yeah.
I mean, frankly, I looked through a few pages, and then I skipped ahead and wow, he's busy. Yeah.
Yes. And I say this fairly often, but for 32 years, my entire life was run by bells.
Right.
I didn't really have to think about my schedule or where I was going or anything like that. And I keep my own calendar now. And in the 4 years and I'm almost done with my 4th year now.
Wow.
I've actually missed one meeting. I mean, there's meetings that I've chosen not to go to, but one that it was just a outright miss. And that puts a little bit of pressure on me. But so I go back to that calendar and then I'm able to kind of recap what I've done. And some of it's pretty general. Some of it I get a little more specific. A lot of times what I'm trying to do is put on links so that folks can get more information if they choose to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a real positive thing, but it does take me, and I type very slowly.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for me to get it put together.
Yeah, I totally get that. Whenever we have some big calendars that we have on the wall, they're whiteboard calendar stuff.
Mhm.
And I try, whenever I'm done and we need to renew those and wipe everything off, I always take pictures of the old ones because inevitably it helps you if you well, when did we do that? Whatever, and
Right.
sometimes that's the only place where that record is. Or, there are other ways of you finding it and stuff, but still.
Right. Yep. And that's really, the calendar is, I live and die by it every day.
Yeah. So, what's new? What are the hot topics that are going on in your world as Union County Commissioner?
And I made a list because after these visits, I walk out of here and think, man, I should have
mentioned that.
Yeah. So part of it is the Oregon legislature's coming back. It's for a long session starting January. And the information that I was given was that, and it's not it's very commonly known now, that 25 of those individuals will be brand new. They have no experience being a state legislator. So that really kind of puts those of us that are trying to help agendas forward or block legislation an opportunity where we really need to make some build some relationships with those folks.
So 25 are new, and how many of them are there total?
There's 90 total. There's
Okay.
30 in the Senate and 60 in the House.
Okay.
And so Eastern Oregon Counties Association, which is an organization that I chair, it's a not a loose association, but it's a group of counties from east of the Cascade where we represent 14 of the eastern counties. The only one that we don't have currently as a member is Klamath County. And I had some good conversations with them recently at our state conference, and they said, "Man, we just really identify more with Southern Oregon than we do with Eastern Oregon." Okay, and very amiable. It was, but those legislative priorities, if I can go through them very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one is, and they're number one on the list, but it's not necessarily our highest priority because they're all very important to especially different groups of commissioners, depending on where they are and what their priorities are. But stable funding for fairgrounds. They've been shortchanged, in my view, for a number of years, and we've really learned a lot through the last couple of sessions. And that when we would say fairs, there was a lot of the legislatures on the west side in particular that would go, "Oh, it's that 1 week event. Why do we want to put all that money into it?"
Right. Yeah.
But in Union County, I mean, the first place we went for a COVID testing was the fairgrounds. There's reunions. There's the fair itself. There's trade shows. There's all these different things that go on. Rarely do we have a week that there isn't something going on at the fairground. So we have been really conscious about talking about fundings for fairgrounds rather than fairs.
Right.
So, and what we're asking for there is 1% of the lottery, which was when it was set up originally was promised to fairgrounds, 1%, and what they still get that, but they've capped it. So it really is about a quarter of what the 1% would be. So this would be a significant increase if we got the full 1%.
Wow.
Yep. Stable and increased funding and staffing for district attorney's offices is one of our very high priorities. We don't have a legislative concept for that, but we are supporting the district attorneys group in their ask for more funding so that they can get people into their offices. Locally, we're understaffed. Last I heard, we're like 38 district attorneys and deputy district attorneys short across the state of Oregon.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, a crucial part of our system. County right-of-way cost recovery. And the way it works is cities have franchise fees for utilities. Counties don't have that ability. So what we're looking for is way to actual costs that we're incurring when someone applies to work in the right-of-way or permitted to work in the right-of-way. And then the other part of it is sometimes that permitting process is actually not followed. So we don't really know who's in there.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, farmer in the valley called and said, "Hey, there's these flags along the side of the road by my field, and it says new pole." And I don't know what it is. So we looked into it, and the company that was doing it was going to put in high-speed internet to Elgin, which great thing. However, where they were going to put those poles was right over an irrigation line, and things could have gone sideways really quick. So
that would have been not good.
Right. Yeah. And so that really started that process, and it went through the legislature last long session, got a good hearing, got a due pass recommendation that went to the full house, and it got killed. So we're making another run at it. And again, with some tweaks in it so that it's more palatable to everybody. Wolf compensation for non-lethal measures. Yesterday at our commission meeting, we made the decision for distribution that our Wolf Compensation Committee recommended to us. And traditionally, we're about 50% underfunded in that, on the asks on that. And some of the things that they're looking for is range riders, so that there's a presence among those livestock. Some extra herders for the sheep that are, and it's so in Union County we've had sheep, llamas, goats, and cattle that have been preyed upon by wolves. And again, these are all non-lethal deterrents. One of them that we approved yesterday was for lights and around their pens, and so that again, as a deterrent to keep the.
Is that just livestock? Because you would think that wolves have drug off a couple cats and dogs too.
I have no. I don't know that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And generally, they're not even in the urban interface. They're quite a ways out for the most part.
Right. Yeah, but we're seeing them closer and closer to.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
And that's also, pushing some of the other predators into closer to town as well. Coyotes and
cougars.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we're Representative Levy is carrying the legislative concept for us on that one, and very appreciative of that. 4-H and Extension continuing service level statewide. And that's a mouthful for saying that over the years, 4-H and Extension has been cut. And really what we'd like to do is have it restored and maintained at a level that's going to provide the services that they really need to provide to all communities in every county. So,
Right.
And I think we've got some steam behind that one. And again, we haven't got a legislative concept in that, but we're supporting the statewide effort. Local Oregon Department of Agriculture meat inspection. So for a long time, it was all federal meat inspection, and then USDA and Oregon Department of Agriculture got together and said, hey, we can go back to an older system where if your rules are as stringent or more stringent than the federal, we're good with that. And so that's been slowly growing in the last few years. We've got a local processor in Elgin that's gotten a grant through that and really improved their facilities. And I think it's a good thing because we just, again, have another way to get it from producer to market and keep things local rather than sending it off to a very large packer and have it come back.
I see. Get it. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think again, and there's a lot of folks in our communities that sell halves and quarters and whole feed to people, and this is going to give them another quality assurance step if they choose to go that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So, small mill and biomass utilization, and this is especially as we start looking at some of these smaller restoration projects and fuels reduction, they may not be viable for large commercial operations. We're going to try to figure out how to support that much better than we are and use that material rather than chipping it or burning it or something like that. EOARC, Eastern Oregon Ag Research Center in Union. And again, it's one of those things that really was kind of first on the chopping block. And we're looking to support that so that we can kind of rebuild it to really what it was in its former glory. And they do really great work out there, but they're always first on the chopping block.
Yeah. Now, who is that again?
That's Oregon State University's Extension Research Center. They have the center in Union.
Okay.
And then they also have the Hall Ranch, which is up Catherine Creek, where they do a lot of research. Just actually yesterday, watched a video and some research they're doing on virtual fencing for cattle. So basically, you can get the dog, invisible dog fence.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm over
right, but it's that simple.
But it's like that, and they set out where they want the cattle to go and where they don't want them to go, and it'll give them a tone and then give them a stimulation and keeps them out of there. So,
interesting.
And it seems to be working pretty well.
Do they have to wear? What would it be through their ear? Or
no, their collar, I believe.
So every cow will have a collar on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
they should hook that thing up to the ear. They're already giving them.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the video, it didn't explain that portion of it very in depth, but it did show them running some animals through a chute, and then they weren't putting ear tags in them. So
interesting.
Yeah. And then the last two that we've got are getting through planning and land use and again, it's that terminology. An acceptable use, which you have to be in an acceptable use category, whether it's farming, ranching, and those activities. And what we're looking for here is getting the folks that have the farm and ranch wedding venues into an accepted use. They're all legal now, but there's some gray areas, and we just want to clarify that so that they can build those businesses. And one of the things that really kind of drove this is when you look at the hopefully the biggest day in these two young people's lives, and they're having to use portables rather.
Keep going. It's
Okay.
all right. Yeah. We're having a little bit of a stick thing, but go ahead.
Okay. By the vote of the people, 3% increase in the transient room tax to support law and emergency services. And this one originated honestly out of Wallowa County, who and I think it was 2021 had 2.5 million visitors in a county with a population just under 8,000. And it really has been putting a strain on their emergency services, their law enforcement. Their particular county runs the ambulance service as well. So all those things tourism up there is thriving, but they need some help to deal with the crowds.
Okay.
So,
Let's take a quick little break here, and we'll make
Okay.
sure that we're still on the air here. Hang on.
all
a
right.
sec. All right, we're back with Paul Anders, and I'm going to have you just go over your last point. Our internet just took a dive there for just a minute. So
You bet. So the last one, and again, I'm generally not in favor of additional taxes, but this one would allow, by a vote of the people in the county, a opportunity to increase the transient room tax, which is the tax that you pay when you rent a motel. And that money would be dedicated to law and emergency services.
okay.
And a specific example is we've got a county, Wallowa County, and in 2021 had 2.5 million visitors, and in a county that's just under 7,000 or 8,000 in population, and their systems are just being really stressed, and this would give them some additional revenue by those that are using it to support that.
So the transit tax is now what, and it would be going up to what?
Every county's different. There
Okay.
are some places that I've been. When I came back from Washington, D.C., I was looking at my bill, and it's almost 20% with all the different entities that are trying to.
Right.
But Union County is 3% currently.
Okay.
City of LeGrand is 3%. So the establishments, which includes Airbnbs and motels, and the other services that provide single night housing or
Yeah.
short-term housing. There we go. So in city limits of LeGrand, it's 6%. Outside, it's 3% in Union County.
Now, so this is one of the things that really gets me about LeGrand, and here's my question: Union County, you're talking about we're worried about this transit tax, but the reality of it is we don't have anywhere for people to stay here.
I understand that.
So how
Yeah.
what's the point in raising the tax if we don't have anywhere for anybody to stay? I mean,
Well,
the places
yeah.
that we do have, people don't stay there.
right. And again, it's part of it's the Airbnb as well, and that would contribute as well. And speaking for Eastern Oregon Counties Association,
Yeah.
wearing that hat for a second, there are places that do have a lot of stays.
Yeah, for I guess I was more focused on like.
Oh, I understand
La
that.
Grande
Yeah. And I keep hearing rumblings that we're going to get a new motel.
We have to.
Right.
We have a university here where a good motel would do so much. You know how many parents of athletes that I know that stay in Pendleton?
And teams.
And teams.
Yep.
Whole teams stay and drive the 50 minutes game day. We got to do better.
We do. And we've got a lot of folks working on that, and it looks like we're making some headway.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back for just a minute, because a lot of these things are, you talked about 30 new members that are going to be in state Congress, in the legislature. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these different entities that you guys are working with. And it wasn't, it was probably only a few years ago. And it was really when Mark Davidson was coming off of the board. That I finally began to get my head around. And who was the commissioner that was there for a long, long time?
Commissioner McClure.
McClure, yes, okay. But part of the huge value of a commissioner in Union County is that over the years you built relationships with these different entities, and so then over a period of time, and Steve McClure particularly, he was up in the leadership of a whole bunch of these different commissions, and so then when it came to talking about Union County, he was really in a leadership position to be able to speak for them.
Right.
And that's one thing that a new commissioner, brand new, you literally are starting over.
Right. And
you're starting over on behalf of the county too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So a couple of points there. I was probably 3 months into my term. I had just been sworn in, very, very green. And I went to testify on some legislation that Representative at the time, Representative Bretto and Senator Hansel had in front of them, and it was on elk depredation. And I remember very clearly walking up to the steps of the Capitol and thinking, I've never been in this building. I had never testified. And one of the things that I hope people take away from this part of the conversation is how accessible those representatives and senators are. They're very easy to talk to, very easy you call them. Generally, it's within a day or two, you get a call back. And the process is much more user-friendly than I ever would have imagined. It's not all cigars in back rooms and things
right,
like that.
Yeah.
There is some of that in my view, that happens. But, well, maybe not cigars, but...
I guarantee you there's some cigars.
But they are very approachable, and each one of these, it's called a legislative concept is how it starts. So a user group, a school district or something, somebody's got something that they want to improve for the state of Oregon. It goes through, it has to go through a legislature or an agency. Well, actually an agency would be an ask, but the legislative concept, and you write out basically a one sentence, this is the problem, this is the solution, and that gets put in. And then like these that we've got, I would get emails back. Is this really what you meant? Is this how you want this? Things like that. And then from that, those legislative concepts all get at least one hearing. That's the rules, and I don't want to say we're really in an advantage now, but the 25 that have not been sworn in can't drop legislative concepts. So the representatives in Eastern Oregon were all very stable. So we were able to visit with those folks that we had those relationships with and get them put through it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. And those are all really relevant concepts and relevant things to why I guess because there certainly is a thought out there, and I have been a part of that process too, especially when you're younger. It's like, the old guard, they're just doing their thing and they don't want growth or whatever it might be. I mean, it's the problem with the old guard, whatever
Right.
that
Yep.
might be. Okay. But I didn't realize that, but the advantage of that old guard is that they have made their way into leadership positions and can speak for Union County in a way that somebody brand new, they simply can't. They don't have the pathway.
Right.
They don't have the ability.
And that's one of the things I really, in this first term of mine, I really worked on, is to get into those positions that I could have that voice for Union County.
Yeah.
And to the point, not necessarily on the legislature, but commissioners. Baker County is in the situation we were a couple of years ago when Commissioner Scarfo and I started. They have 2 brand new commissioners.
Right.
Their chair is brand new. Morrow County is going to have 3 brand new commissioners, but there were some things that they had. They actually had a recall in their county. They had an election that replaced one retired, and then the third was recalled. So they're going to have a huge, but again, starting from scratch.
Right.
Umatilla County, great commissioners over there, but the longest serving so far is in the same class that I am. So he's just finishing up his 4th. Got one that's just finishing up 2, and then a brand new one.
Wow.
So and you're right. I was there for a long time as well. Term limits, get them out of there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a lot to be said for that longevity and those relationships that are built up over the years. And those relationships can both be positive and negative.
Right.
I mean, so I can see both sides of it, but I think that to a certain degree, you need to have those, at least some continuity and that historical background.
Yeah.
It's in life too. I can relate it to my job, a sports person. Like when I first started doing this, I didn't have the connections that I have now. You know what I mean? Like I get a lot more access to things now than in the very beginning. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Like I can finagle my way into things that I couldn't when I first started doing this.
Right.
It's very similar.
Yeah. And that is politics in some manner. It doesn't matter whether it's in sports or business or, being a commissioner.
Life.
In life, yeah. I mean,
it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right. And that totally is true, and I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that even outside of the area that will say, hey, I've got a problem in Tillamook. It happened the other day, and I'm trying to think of I think I know somebody in Tillamook. I think I could, and they might know somebody who knows somebody, I mean.
And it works the same with these.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really tried to do is get to know those people. The answer is Commissioner Yamamoto or Commissioner Scar.
Yeah.
Those are two of the commissioners in Tillamook County.
Yeah.
And I work with them surprisingly often. I mean, you would think that the coast and Northeast Oregon may not have that much in common, but I work with both of them.
What do they call it? Brushing shoulders?
Yeah.
Rubbing shoulders with
yeah.
the big wig?
You scratch my back, I scratch you. Yeah.
Right.
So are there any times, I mean, without you giving up specifics, are there any times where you're like, I have no interest in this whatsoever? The only reason I'm here in this committee or this meeting or this whatever is because it may benefit Union County down the road.
There has to be.
Yes. Yeah. Short answer is yes. However, when you look at the areas of responsibility or liaison for the 3 of us,
right? Yeah.
We really kind of pick and choose the ones that we are interested in. I mean, and I'll get an email and I'll think, I'll read the title of it and think, I don't have to worry about that because either Commissioner Beveridge or Commissioner Scarfo are going to have that handled, and vice versa. I mean, because a lot of times we'll get emails written to the 3 of us, and I refer back to those lists that we've got of areas of responsibility. Doesn't mean one of the commissioners, I couldn't answer that, but generally they have that expertise in that area.
Yeah. So do you want to wander into measure 114 for a minute and talk about that?
Sure.
So tell us the latest news. What I don't know that I'm up on the status of what judge did what and whatever.
Okay.
Yeah,
I am not positive I'm up on it
Okay.
either because it literally is changing by
it's a moving
the
target.
hour.
Yeah.
But sometime yesterday, a judge in Harney County had a stay on a portion of it. It sounded like to me. Oregon's Attorney General Ellen Rosenbaum went to Oregon Supreme Court to try to get a ruling on whether they had the authority to do that. Oregon Supreme Court refused to weigh in on it at that point. So again, it's a little bit in limbo. I think that it's, in personal opinion, it's going to be tied up in the courts for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I would be shocked if it doesn't go to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Well, so isn't all they're asking for is a stay? Basically, like, do not put this into effect until we can have the Supreme Court look at
Right,
it, right?
right.
So they're saying, like, hey, we just want to wait until we can have the governing body, which is the Supreme Court, ultimately,
Right.
take a look at this and see if it's
Yeah, and
constitutional.
but it'd have to go through a number of steps before it got
couple
to the
years.
Supreme Court. Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
got to be.
And part of it is, the arguments are, the system isn't in place to
The background check.
the
thing.
background checks and the training and I can tell you that our sheriff's department is working to get a system in place so that people can legally purchase guns in this community and follow all the rules. So
The bad thing is that's taking money away from stuff that they really need to be doing.
And out of the pockets of businesses. I mean,
it's crazy. Yeah.
the folks that sell guns in this community, legal, law-abiding citizens are now going, well, what can I sell?
And we have a pretty good background check in Oregon. The state police's background check. I have a friend that's a police officer in Dallas. A police officer. He has to wait a month after he pays for his gun to get it because he gets flagged every time. Doesn't have any criminal history. Nothing. He's a cop.
Mm-hmm.
His name gets flagged. They make him wait.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the law. That's how it works here. And I feel like our system here in Oregon is not. It's better than most states. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't even want to comment anymore.
Yeah. And again, I think time will tell.
Yeah. But the bottom line is it doesn't look like there's immediate stay. It's going to go into effect today, right?
Today.
Is that what you
Yes.
said?
Today.
Yeah. So technically, if you had magazines over a certain capacity, you're supposed to turn those in, or
No.
you're
No.
supposed to what? No.
You are legally able to, if you had them prior to today,
Okay.
that's grandfathered in.
Okay. That's okay.
It has no effect on what you already own.
Okay.
You just can't go down.
You just can't purchase
you can't
it.
purchase
Carl's
one,
place
and then
down there in the
and then
bottom.
the actually for purchasing firearms it's a much more stringent and cumbersome process.
I
So
wonder
then-
how many got bought in the last week.
Yeah.
The waiting list for
AR
background
Oh,
for background check.
Oh, I heard it's like tens of thousands of people.
The last I heard, it was knocking on the door of 30,000.
Yeah.
That's
So
30,000
Oregon?
guns since November.
So for the
first
people
November
that don't know how it works, when you go in to buy a gun, they put you in the system and it puts out a number. It says you're 1,000th in line. Generally not that far, but it's for the whole state. So they're doing these background checks, and this computer's linked to every gun dealer in the state. So you walk into Carl's place down there, and you're going to buy a gun. He puts you in the system. It says you're number 67, and it just drops down 65, 62. You're number 17, and then when it finally gets to your name, boom, they run the background check, and it'll either flag you or say you're good. Boom, it's over. And you can be flagged for a 1 month wait where they go do a more extensive look into you, or you can just be flagged completely. Like you can't buy a gun, or you can buy the gun right there. And it's crazy, man. If you say 30,000 people,
yep,
that's a lot. That's a lot of guns getting by.
Yes, and every one of those applications represents one gun.
One gun.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a handgun, shotgun, rifle.
Wow.
This is like when they had that big AR thing
Right.
10 years ago or however long it was, and everybody went out and bought ARs.
Mhm.
It was very similar to
Yep.
what's going on right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We live in a crazy world.
But again, I think it's going to be a while before it's actually settled.
So the greatest impact right now is on new gun sales. Technically.
That and high capacity magazines.
Okay.
Because those are now, you're not allowed
You cannot buy them.
buy them. And I think, if I remember reading correctly, allowed to import them. So you can't go to Idaho and buy one and bring it home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I would say the other greatest impact would be on especially rural law enforcement agencies and the amount of money that they have to
Right.
spend in training and with these more extensive background checks and with the concealed carry part of it, right? There's a more extensive
It sounds
process to get your concealed carry permit when,
Right.
in all reality, if you look at the law, the Constitution gives you the right to conceal carry. I mean, honestly, in my opinion.
right. And I,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that kind of thank you for that.
You bet.
Yeah, clarification.
Yeah.
So anything else?
oh, I've got, yeah.
He said, yeah.
Union County Public Works has put on the county website the description of how decisions are made on plowing roads.
Oh,
It's really informative, and people are, how come my road never gets plowed? Well, it does get plowed, but these are the priorities, and if we get snow in between, and honestly, it starts with bus routes, and then goes to major thoroughfares, and then the less traffic, the later it is that it's going to get plowed in the process. We do not plow people's driveways in on purpose. We don't block mailboxes on purpose, but we've got a significant number of miles. So in Union County, we've got just under 600 miles of road that the county is responsible for. And so you double that, that's 1,200 miles that we have to plow to get everything clean. And and I should know this, but I don't. But
say that again. Why you double it? Why? Because
lanes.
you got to go back for it. Okay, got it.
lanes,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So we only plow one lane at a time.
Right. Got it.
And we use graders, we use plow trucks. We actually have a smaller plow truck that actually has a sander attached to it. And we also, since I got here, that first winter was really brutal. And the next winter, our public works director, Doug Wright, was able to source a rotary snowplow, one of the big blowers from,
Those are cool.
yeah, from state surplus. And we've got that in our arsenal now. So it's on the website towards the top on the right-hand side. And that's, I think, is going to help folks understand, I hope understand, that we're not picking on you, we're not ignoring you, that we've got a protocol that we're following.
I want to go do a ride along after a really bad snow with one of the snowplow people in the county. I actually ran into a friend from high school that plows snow for the county in Union County, and he said he loves his job, and I think it's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be cool to bring a camera in there and just talk about the route.
I will see if I can make that happen. I won't promise.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know who was right around my age that does
Yeah.
it. That would be kind of cool to just go for a ride along for a day. But there's got to be a lot. You can't Cody Bowen me though. You can't take me on a ride along and then not get any calls. We got to have some snow.
Okay, we'll wait for a snow. But I will see if we can make that
That
happen.
would be cool.
The other thing is, we talked about, leadership positions. I was selected by Association of Oregon Counties to chair the committee on transportation and community development. Commissioner Scar, that I mentioned a minute ago, we're co-chairs of that particular committee, and pretty excited about the responsibility for that. I think it's going to be good. And
Now, what does that committee do? I mean, the name is pretty broad. So
but yeah, well, actually, they took two and combined them.
Okay.
So it has everything to do with housing, broadband, renewable energies would be the community development side, and then transportation is county roads, the right of way that we talked about, and how the counties and ODOT work together to get projects through.
So this is kind of like a committee at the state level,
Correct.
and you guys are kind of looking. Okay, I think I get that.
Yeah.
So then you're studying issues and making suggestions to legislators. I don't know how to tell me what.
So,
tell me how that. Tell me how that
Association
flow
of
of
Oregon
influence
Counties
works.
has 35 of the 36 counties that are members,
Okay.
and then there's multiple committees. There's natural resources, there's transportation community development, there's veterans, there's law enforcement, and law and emergency services, and I'm forgetting some of the others. But so they meet and discuss topics, and a lot of times it will be whether we're going to support or not support specific legislation at the state level.
Okay.
And then the program specialists at Association of Oregon County, lobbyists, help us navigate that system and then we speak as one voice for 35 of the 36 counties.
Okay.
And then that goes to what's called the legislative committee, and all those concepts from each of the committees goes there, and it's hashed out there, and whether the entire group. So the committee may think it's a great idea, but all 35 counties may not think it's a great idea.
Got it.
Either goes or doesn't go.
Okay.
So that's how that works, and a tremendous honor. I'm a little stressed about it, but I think it's going to be good, and I'm looking forward to working with Commissioner Scar. She's really in tune to, especially the community development side, and I'm more on the transportation side. And I think we complement each other in our strengths and weaknesses. So I think it's going to be good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
And I would be remiss to not mention that Robin Church is retiring from the county at the end of the month. And I personally will miss her. Having watched portions of it, I can vouch that she runs a flawless election.
I can too, firsthand.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, she went through the whole process with us, and we've been there the last 3 or 4 elections, and yeah, there's no question. I mean, I sat there and watched them look at every single one of the signatures and match up the ones that were even off just a little bit to the signature on the voter ID card, and yeah, yeah.
A couple years ago, my son's got flagged because he was in high school and signature changes.
Right. Yeah.
And he had signed it and went in and verified that yes, it was him.
Yeah.
If it's even off a little bit, they put it into a pile, and then they get a photocopy of the voter ID card that has the signature on it, and they have 2 women in there that are or men. It was women this year that are looking at they're like, hey, do you think those match up? I'm like, nah. into the recheck pile, and there's at least 2 people checking every single one of those that are even off a little bit. It's quite phenomenal. And that machine we have a whole video on EOA Live about that new machine, which just happened they had a problem with it this year.
Right.
But a machine that's that sophisticated, there's going to be problems. I mean, but wow, that thing is incredible.
Less than 24 hours later, it was up and
rolling
functioning.
It's quite incredible what they do up there. All the volunteers in the back room, and they're gonna miss Robin though. She knows her thing. She knows her things, and she's got it together. And she's gonna be a tough one to replace.
Yep. And she's passionate.
Yeah, but I think Lisa is going to do a great job as well. I think it's going to really work out well. Yep. And I think probably the only other thing I've got is. Do you have any idea how what your reach is on this? Because last night I was going to bed and my phone dinged and I looked at it, and a friend of mine who's on a cruise ship in Hawaii says, "Have a great show tomorrow morning. We're going to be watching," and popped up the
That's awesome.
That's funny.
The electronic flyer that you have out that I was going to be on in the morning.
That's funny.
This morning.
We have a ton of viewers who are outside of the area who used to be
crazy.
I mean, LeGrand is their home, or they have a connection to LeGrand, and they when we do a live event, often or a parade, we'll say, "Hey, where are you at today?" and it's surprising the number of people. I mean, half of them will be from, outside of the area.
Yeah.
Well, and
football too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People watch football from all over the whole country.
Yeah.
Canada, Alaska.
Everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know how I knew that we were starting to like grow exponentially is when I was in Baker and I'm walking down the main street in Baker and there's a TV in the window and I'm on it. And I'm like, what's going on? I had to go inside. I'm like, where did you get this? They're like, oh, we found it on the internet. We downloaded it and now we play it in our window.
That's funny.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's good.
but
That's
yeah, and
awesome.
these people, I mean, one of my best friends is who I'm talking about, doesn't even live here.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Lives in Ontario, but does spend a fair amount of time in Union County. He and his wife will spend 2-3 weeks of the summer out at Hot Lake in their RV, and absolutely love Union County. So,
Yeah.
I can not. Look at
Well,
this
right,
place.
true. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you. That's all good news for us. I can tell you that we work really hard at it, but at this point, it's just a routine for us. I mean, so when this show gets done, somebody will categorize it and clip the beginning off of it, and there's just a
The whole
process,
process.
which and for us, it's just kind of a mechanism, and the same thing happens all the time, and we have our head down. I mean, as soon as we're done here, it's like, okay, what's on the calendar next? I mean, you do that too,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I had somebody the other day say, that was a great event the other night. And I'm like, I mean, they had to tell me whatever it was they were talking about, because I had no recollection whatsoever, because I was on to the next thing. But anyhow, so we don't often hear about the reach until we run into someone and they recognize us, or they say, we love your content, or we love what you do, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really, personally, it's hard to measure. It's hard to understand that you're like, wow, this does make a difference, and it is.
Yeah.
And we kind of came through a little bit of a storm, as you know, during the political season, and so out of that, you have people that, I mean, I had random people who I barely had, and they were sending me text messages, and so thank you. That's we love what we do.
Actually, it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was like,
we love what we do, and it's even more of a win when we know that people appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
thank you
excellent.
so much. I appreciate being able to come and visit. It feels like we're sitting around a coffee table having coffee and visiting.
It's much better like this than in separate rooms.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot easier in separate rooms.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Is it really?
Man,
Oh,
production wise.
production one,
okay.
yeah. We just sit at our computers. We don't have to have all this
Yeah.
other stuff. We have a webcam and the computer does it all. We don't have to have all this fancy schmancy stuff. sitting
Yeah.
around, but
All right. What do you want to get us out here?
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Start off with on this day, December 8th. On this day in 1792, the first cremation in U.S. history. His name was Henry Lawrence. It's the first person cremated legally in the United States. Now, I'm sure there was
Right. I
Cremated
follow you.
before that, but-
1792. Okay.
Yeah. On this day in 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued his amnesty proclamation and plan for reconstruction of the South.
Wow.
Do I have the right one? Yeah, I do. On this day in 1930, Broadway Theater opened at 1681 Broadway in New York City.
What year?
1930. The next year, 1931, coaxial cable was patented. 1931. 1941, big one. What happened on this day in 1941?
Declared
the day
war.
after D-Day.
Declared war.
Yes.
The day
U.S.
that
and Britain declared war on Japan. World War II is entered by the United States.
and it's funny because yesterday I snagged Benny and I said, Benny, do you know what's significant about this day?
No way.
And he had no idea.
No.
But
no.
but
Anybody below my
Right.
what are they called? The generations
Right.
below my generation has no idea what D-Day is because
Right.
their parents, and I'm not saying everybody, but their parents were involved.
Right.
So like my kids don't know much about D-Day because
Yeah.
I wasn't
But
involved.
they certainly know about September 11th.
Of course
Yeah.
they do. Exactly. That's exact. And 50 years from now, those kids aren't going to know like we know about
Right.
September 11th.
Mhm.
I tell you what's kind of a wild thing for me to think is that so I was born in the 60s, and at that point it was only 20 years previous that World War II had happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now you think about what happened just 20 years ago. I mean, when I was young,
1911.
World War
Or
II just
9/11.
seemed so it was so far away when it was only 20 years previous to me, you know.
Which is where we're at with 9/11 right now.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. On this day in 1941, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered his Day of Infamy speech to the U.S. Congress a day after D-Day. On this day in 1976, Asylum Records released the Eagles' fifth studio album, Hotel California. It ended up having 2 #1 singles and sold over 30 million copies. It's a pretty big album.
Yeah.
Especially for that era. I mean, that was a huge
good
album. Yeah. 2010, this is where I stopped because everything from like most of the time, everything new just depresses me. A lot of it's about COVID. And so I stopped at 2010. With the second launch of SpaceX Dragon, SpaceX becomes the first privately held company to successfully launch, orbit, and recover a spacecraft. 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Elon Musk.
That seems like a lot shorter
Now he's shooting
time.
people up into space.
I know, but it seems like a lot shorter. I mean, it seems like that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it was 12 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy, huh? The #1 song, BC, this was your jam, I'm sure of it. In 1982, I'll bet you had this on the record player all the time. It's Mickey.
I
You're
did.
so fine.
Hey, Mickey, it's a VC knows that song. He had that on the record player. For
No,
sure.
I didn't have that on the record player. 82. See, 82, I was in the middle of my college year, and that was more of a high school thing, right?
Oh, well, I don't know. It was a huge song. I mean,
Yeah.
we still know the words to it today.
Yeah.
My quote for the day is a photography quote. It's by Ansel Adams. Not everybody trusts paintings, but people believe photographs. It's a pretty good. It's pretty solid.
That's right.
Not everybody trusts paintings, but people believe photographs.
Well, and you know, that's the benefit of we tout this. It's the benefit of video too.
Yeah.
You don't edit live video.
No,
I mean,
this is
it's just
live,
it is what it is. And
coming at you live.
and you know, I mean, I love the writers out there and they condense stuff, but you can take it when you're writing, you can take a snippet or a sound bite, and you can certainly do that with video too. But
yeah,
this long form communication is really authentic and genuine.
Mhm.
And yeah, so
I saw another photography one that I really liked too, and it was something about like it doesn't matter the subject, it matters where you're at.
yeah,
Like you could be taking a picture of anything, you just have to be in the right spot,
yeah,
right?
yeah, very interesting. Well, and I'm good friends with Eric Valentine, and he does a tremendous amount of outdoor photography, and that's just kind of his jam. And but he is an expert at framing the video. So you would look at a frame, and when I told him this, he's like, sometime I'm going to do a book and I want you to write the forward or be this on the back page. But he is an expert at moving just a little bit one way or the other so that there's a bush in the foreground or there's a tree or whatever it is, and that composition. He is marvelous at composition.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah. So you take a totally common scene and all of a sudden it just pops because of how it's composed.
Yeah. I try to do that with sports. Like
Yeah.
I don't really care as much about like the basket, or I care about the emotion, and I care about like the other people's reaction too. So like I'll try to get a teammate's reaction along with the person who just scored the touchdown, or you know, like the crowd is super important at a sporting event, right? And photography's fun, man. I love it.
All righty. Hey, thank you, Eastern Oregon, for being with us. Chief Gary Bell is going to be with us next Tuesday, so be sure and tune into that.
See you on Tuesday.
All right.